Coming up today on The Nice Guys on Business.
There's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise nowadays, and people want to gravitate to who you really are. And you want to give them as many samples of who you are as you possibly can. And I think, through, multiple interviews with different people, you share a little bit of your story along the way. People get to know who you are as a person and then kind of decide, like, when it's time they want to work with you.
Is that the smell of Old Spice aftershave, Old Bay crab seasoning, and old sweat socks? Must be time for the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Doug Sandler from TurnKey Productions, of course. And you may not recognize this face, especially if you're listening in audio. You don't even see his face. But Dante Royster has been a long-time TurnKey client. He is the proprietor, the owner of Epic Mortgage. He also has a podcast, so branded, called the Epic Spotlight Podcast. And I'm excited to chat with him today just about the year in review, what's been going on with him and his life. And man, with the Fed moving up and down in the rates, I'm sure it has been like a I don't want to. Can I be politically incorrect and say a one-arm paper hanger? Is that possible? Can you even say that anymore?
I don't think you can say that anymore.
All right. I'm not going to say that anymore. So you could just, editing team, just edit that out. They probably aren't going to edit that out. Dante, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm excited. We met about a month ago, and we were talking about all the things that you've been able to accomplish and all the goals that you still have to achieve in podcasting. And I think I may have said, hey, can we get this recorded so that people can at least hear like a little bit of your journey through this podcasting space and a little bit how your business has either moved, shifted, evolved, changed with technology, with COVID, with all the stuff that's been going on. So you pick, where do we even start in this process here?
It starts at the beginning. The beginning is just recognizing the world is changing, right? I mean, it feels like the pandemic era was like zero, right? You had AD and BC, and now it's pre-pandemic and after pandemic. So, I mean, it's just a new world that we're in. I think a lot of people, during the pandemic gravitated, obviously they were staying at home. They gravitated to podcasts. They gravitated to listening more. And I just feel like from a marketing standpoint and a business standpoint, that's where we need to be so we can get our message out there to the people.
So I used to be in the mortgage business way back in the early 90s. I think the rates were between 6 and 8%, if I remember correctly. I remember that elusive breaking the ceiling of 6% actually the floor so we could get lower than that. And it was totally a face-to-face business. I had to walk into probably 10 or 12 real estate offices in the course of a day and just kind of build relationships there. Technology completely has changed the face of the mortgage business. I mean, let alone the whole podcasting space. Of course, that has all changed a lot of things too in terms of business development. But just touch upon the importance, the commonality of relationship building back then as it relates to today. It's still all about relationships, isn't it? No matter how we're doing it.
100% about relationships. It's about, really there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise nowadays, and people want to gravitate to who you really are. And you want to give them as many samples of who you are as you possibly can. And I think, through, multiple interviews with different people, you share a little bit of your story along the way. People get to know who you are as a person and then kind of decide, like, when it's time they want to work with you.
So connect podcasting to the real estate or the mortgage business, because it doesn't seem like there's a big connection. Maybe you get some information, maybe some education about either mortgages or real estate or however you do it. But connect the two so people can even see, why would somebody that was in the mortgage business even be considering starting a podcast or even thinking about, a different way to market what they're doing?
Sure. I mean, obviously, from the core principles, I'm a loan officer. And what is a loan officer? A loan officer is someone that originates loans and originates it with an application. And we used to call them 1003s or URLA, depending on when you got into the business. But with that application comes name, date of birth, social, where you live, and where do you work, and how much you make. And through these conversations that we have with people, it's fascinating what people do and how they earn a living. And I think just from a podcast perspective, I thought some of those cool stories would be pretty neat to share, just digitally, right? So it's like me basically sharing clients and business partners that I've met along the way from various walks of life. And what separates me, it makes me a little bit different. I'm licensed in multiple states, I'm regional. So, it's nice to have a conversation with a State Farm rep in Colorado and having a life insurance rep in Florida, and because it's different perspectives. So, I try to bring that to the forefront, and hopefully the audience likes it.
I was checking out your website earlier today and have it up in front of me right now, and I look at your Epic Spotlight page. And what's really cool about the page is you really do a great job of providing the bios and information of the people that you're interviewing on the show, and you can see pretty easily the connection, not necessarily to the mortgage business, but the connection to, hey, this is a person that's probably been ultra successful in whatever discipline that they are working in, and they have a message worth sharing. How does it help you to have somebody sitting in that guest seat that is either not in a direct position to get a mortgage from you or not in a direct position to refer you? Where do you find the connectivity between you and that guest? And you do it really well every episode. So I'm curious what your perspective is on why that person might be sitting in a guest seat.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for that. I've really had to go back down to my principles, just as my pillars of life, and what I focused on was, basically happiness. Just what is the definition of being happy, healthy. Obviously, coming from the pandemic, we definitely learned about trying to be more healthy, conscious of it at least. Wealth, wealth is always a big thing, and that's why I'm in this space, in the mortgage space, and then obviously was it happiness, health, wealth, and I'm drawing a blank on the last one, but these are my pillars of life, and just things that my principles, love. Thank you, love.
Yeah,
Love is,
really.
yeah,
Yeah,
I was
that's a
like,
pretty
man, what is
important
that?
one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
in there somewhere. Hey, look,
it is.
even when a guest sits in our guest seat, I don't tell them, hey, look, here's the 5 questions or 10 questions I'm going to ask you. So
Right.
I appreciate you being a human being and understanding that you're not going to remember. I wrote a
No.
book. I'm looking at sometimes somebody's like, hey, on page 72, you mentioned, I'm like, well, oh, I did. Like I wrote
Exactly.
that. I don't even
Yeah,
remember.
no, I mean, it's real life experiences, but yeah, no, I mean, those are my pillars, happiness, health, wealth, and love. And so when I kind of thought about those as my pillars of life, I wanted to share those and I wanted to ask questions and how people viewed them. So I try to find people that had those types of disciplines. We've talked to doctors and psychiatrists,
Mhm.
therapists. We've talked to chiropractors. We've spoken to people obviously in my space in the real estate community, because I wanted to show people a different dynamic. I'm still, like you said, we're all human beings. We're all going through experiences. Mortgage, it definitely plays a role, but it's not the be all end all. It's not everything you
Mhm.
do every day. And I think it was something that, from a CRM perspective, it was allowed me an opportunity to, stay in tune with people along the way. So it might be the next, 5 years before you need me again, but I wanted to give you something that you could, stay in tune with me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you kind of put some realistic glasses on when it comes to sometimes somebody that's sitting in that guest seat may not be in a position to buy, refer, or even know you for another 5 years. But at the same time, that episode that they sat in with you, that lives either on their website or social media, that lives on forever. And oftentimes it may just be enough to put you at top of mind when they are ready to either refer or buy or somehow do some work with you. Go back to you've been in the mortgage business for decades, right? Couple of decades you've
Two,
been in it.
two, 2 decades. Yeah, we,
Two,
we
for
stopped there. Two
All right, so
decades.
2 decades. But it wasn't always your own thing. I think you were working for another company originally, and then it
Sure.
evolved into your own business. Talk to the entrepreneurs that are out there. How do you know when the timing is right? Or maybe the timing is never right, but how do you know when your attitude is right to
Sure.
start doing your own thing as in your case in the mortgage business?
Yeah, no, it's you got to take a leap of faith. You have to have a belief in yourself. Obviously I started from scratch. I don't have anyone in my family that's in this industry, at least that I'm aware of. And so, I it wasn't just here, Dante, here's 100 clients or here's a book of business that you can start, so it really was developing those relationships and it took time. And I think, obviously, you're never going to be 100% ready because it's a different animal being the owner versus just being, someone that you work for someone.
Hmm.
But I felt there was a level where I was growing, I was expanding. I needed more of, just kind of the revenue in order to do some of the things I wanted to do personally. And so that's kind of the maneuver where it felt like, hey, I'm getting a little bit too big for this company because you're kind of building a business inside another business.
Hmm.
And if that business really like, hey, it's getting cramped in here because you're utilizing too much of my resources, and I'm still trying to run my business, then you know it's time to move on and start your own.
So I know you've recently taken on another responsibility, and that's the responsibility of actually bringing on a team to help you do what you do. Talk to again our entrepreneurs that are more in the mid stages rather than the early stages about the opportunity to bring a team member onto their team. When's the time right? When is it not right? What's your attitude about that?
My attitude is from day one. The job is really hiring, training, retaining, and constantly recruiting people. You don't want to just bring everyone in here. I'm not a big fan of just assuming that anyone can do this job. But there is a level of saying, here, there's a great opportunity. You see what I've done, and let me see if I can pass it and pay it forward to someone else. That is really your bloodline and your residual income to some degree. If you can develop people underneath you that can, at least be half of you or three-fourths of you or a full you, that's huge. And that will be the longevity of the business
Mhm.
will be based on them. Obviously, the great companies, if you just do research, they're able to pass from generation to generation, or they're past the actual founder of the company. And so you have to build obviously models and structure and strategies to really implement that.
So in order to kind of take the more passive income approach to growing any business, whether you're an entrepreneur or own a company or C level, you need to be able to pass some of those response. You need to be able to step away from your business and still have your business run. Is that something that you have that you put on a timeline and say, hey, as the owner of Epic Mortgage, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I bring somebody on my team. I know for that responsibility that I hired for a year ago, I'll be able to step out of that role because that person has it. What generally, at least in your estimation, is the time frame that somebody can anticipate somebody being able to take over that responsibility that's on their team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really feel like it's going to be case by case with every business or industry. I mean, for me, I'm not where I want to be right now, but I'm willing to understand the steps that it's necessary to take. We have built a sales force, up to 10 people that are working underneath me, which is great. But there's still ways away from being the next Dante out there, and so obviously that's going to require training and support. And also, it's going to require constantly recruiting and maybe finding the next person. Maybe the next person that really has the desire to do what I'm doing is just not with me yet. So I don't. It's hard to put a timeline onto
Hmm.
things because that's kind of the thing. I mean, it is. Sometimes there's ups and downs, right? In all businesses, there's ups and downs just in your personal life that's going on. So I mean, to some degree, it's like, man, 20 years and I just got here. You know what I mean? Where some
Right.
people, might have had some success and said, hey, I started my own within 3 years or 5 years. So I never really had an initial timeline. I think as you start reaching as you get older, I think you start seeing like retirement, things that you want to do more. And then I think that might just motivate you a little bit. Hey, I
Yeah.
want to get this a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. I'm laughing because I understand exactly what you're talking about. While there is a lot of hustle in me as a 60-year-old, there's a lot of hustle in me. I feel like I can be patient, but at the same time, I want to get this done. I want to not get it done as in be out of the business, but I want to get it done so it's built to a level where I feel like I could even step away, even if it was for, I just was talking to my girlfriend this morning, last night about this. It's like, hey, how do we step away from the business for a month and not have the business, collapse or
Collapse.
implode? Or how
Right.
could we generate enough interest in what we do to step away for even a year and say, okay, when I come back, I'm not going to have lost 30 clients. I may have even gained some clients because we put a sales team, a support team. We've put people that are in a position of ownership without being owners of the company. That's all an attitude. I remember going to work in the mortgage business, and I felt like even though I worked, you said it quite eloquently a little bit ago, even though I worked for somebody, I really owned my own business. Now, and
Correct.
without me showing up, it was 100% commission. So without me showing up, I made no money, but without the support of a larger team, I would have gotten nowhere as well, especially a fledgling mortgage officer. So talk for just a moment about Strick and I chat a lot about staying in your zone of genius. The thing that we really do well. Mine is, or let's talk about his. He's really great at systems and processes and building the back end process for all of the stuff that TurnKey does. I would be horrible if put in that position. You ever have me look at a spreadsheet or a CRM and try to build something? I can use it, but I don't want to build it. Where do you think? I mean, obviously, it's got to be in the mortgage business and relationship building. But where do you think that your zone of genius lies? The thing that really, kind of lifts your wings, but and doesn't like bring you down. It's like, oh crap, this is what I got to do today. What is that for you in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of twofold in that regard. I think you do have to look at your weaknesses, right? So, I mean, that's the first thing you have to focus on is your weaknesses. And then you have to delegate, and find people that can, strengthen those weaknesses. So, obviously, I'm very much like you. I'm not really the cross the T's, the dot the I guy. I had to find a young lady to really manage, the auditing and making sure that everything is, we're regularly audited from
Right,
states.
right.
So, it's a highly regulated business. So we have to make sure we're ready to go when it comes to that. And so I found people in place, compliance officers and stuff that were willing to work with us and, put us in our best foot forward so then I can do what I'm good at. I got a compliment yesterday, actually. I was at breakfast actually just a coworker, and he basically was like, "Hey, you're a really good marketer." And I never really, I was like, wow, thank you. I never thought of that, really. I'm just, I don't have fear, and there's certain things that I want out of life, and I know you have to put the time in. I do, probably similar to you, get a little impatient.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, there's a lot of reflection that goes on. I'm sure you could probably appreciate this. It's just, going back to my parents, they put in 40, 50 years at a job and then they
Right.
retired. And so you kind of, when you engage into the workforce, I just assume that's what I got to do. I got to put the next 30, 40, 50 years into the job. And, just with all this, gurus online and all this social media stuff, I saw the just virality nature of things that can occur. And I said, you know what? I don't have to put 40 to 50 years into this. I could
Mm-hmm.
actually maybe, even though I have put 20 years in, I was like, maybe I could be done in just 30 years, and really having that kind of mindset is, has really changed me. Like, what do I need to do or what does it need to look like that I could be done in 10 years? And that's really been my new motivation, and that's what allowed me to write my book, or allowed me to start the podcast, and so on and so on. So I'm definitely motivated to create something that hopefully in 10 years from now you're like, wow, I really set myself forward.
The entrepreneurial space, unlike the corporate space, that 40 or 50 year have a career at one job, there's a lot more volatility in the entrepreneur space. How do you deal with, and this will be something that many of you in our nice guy community could relate to if you've ever had your side hustle or you've ever worked, been self-employed for any number of years. How do you deal with the ups and downs? Because there are some, not just financially, but also emotionally, the wins, then the losses, then the churn, and then like, oh my gosh, how do we, I worked so hard for that, and that just kind of imploded on itself. So how do you deal with the ups and downs?
I kind of internalize it, and obviously you have to have stress relievers. Whether I like to work out. There's things that I just do that I like to do Pilates. I mean stretch, yoga, all that stuff. To
Nice.
just try to just calm it down and just I think writing stuff down, having I've never really had a mentor. I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, mentor would be great. I've never really had one. No one in my space that was older than me that said, "Hey, Dante, do these things."
Hmm.
I really have been more of a trial and error guy. I'm just so focused for the end result, and I know whatever it gets in front of me, I just got to get through it. And so I'm just locked in I'm just mentally strong in that way. My father was military, so he kind of gave me that structure, that discipline. So I mean, there's going to be ups and downs, and there's things that I don't know yet, and there's things that I'm still learning. But I'm just going to get through it one way or the other. And I just have a belief. I mean, I guess, there's a faith base in me that just says, I'm gonna figure it out.
So you've been doing this podcast now for how long? How many episodes do you have out?
Oh man. Well, it's been a year. I think we're on episode, it's airing episode 36 or something like that. So yeah.
So how does think about the relationships that you've been able to forge? And I always talk to everybody about the hidden gift in podcasting is not necessarily about that ego metric, the amount of downloads that you get. Because for normal people like you and me, the download count isn't really where we're making our money in podcasting. We tend to make our money from the relationships that we're building, whether it's from an audience member that happens to, we have probably about 20 or 25 audience members that we regularly hear from, whether it's on social media or voicemail. And we've been doing our show for 10 years. And somebody might say, man, that's like nothing. And I look at it and say, oh my God, I have 20 people that if we don't put out our episode on Friday morning by 6 a.m., somebody is texting me, either me or Strick, to say, hey, your episode's not out. What's going on? I go for my dog walk at 9 a.m. East Coast time. Why isn't this here? I think about those relationships that we've built with our audience. And then I think about, in my case, 1,600 episodes, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of relationships and partnerships that we have grown out of that guest seat. When you originally started podcasting, Dante, where was it where you felt like that gift was going to come from, and where has it evolved to over the last 30 plus episodes that you have had a chance to record?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think when you think of a podcast or a radio host or something like that, I thought it was going to be the audience. I think from day one, you always think it's going to be the audience.
Right.
They're going to listen to you, they're going to resonate with you, and then they're going to want to, call you up and give you something. And obviously, going through it, that's not the case. I don't really know who's listening per se. I see there's a couple of people listening, and I appreciate that. And I do believe it'll grow over time because they want to see consistency. I mean, there's so many. I think people, human nature, we're skeptical, right?
Hmm.
Is this legit? Is this fly by night? Is he really going to do this? Is this something he really is going to do up for a long period of time? And if you show the consistency, they will be like, okay, they'll come and support you. But I think initially it's been the guests. It's been the guests in the seat, having that conversation with them. It's not necessarily what is being filmed, but it's actually what prior to being filming and even after the filming, those conversations. We recently just did a podcast with an artist, and and we were talking about just the different types of artistry that she does,
Hmm.
and we got into daughters, and I said my daughter loves art and stuff like that, and that's why I really wanted to have this conversation. I admire that she was able to create a business out of something like art per se, because it seems like it's one of those fly by night type of businesses. I was like, you really can make money, and she does. And lo and behold, she's looking to relocate. You know what I mean? And so it's like those are great opportunities.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
What a
yeah,
what a interesting thing you struck upon without really the intention of striking upon it.
correct, correct. So there's tons of that. I mean, but yeah, it starts with relationships in my business, and this is just another form of building a relationship. Obviously, having these conversations. With really good people, and they got great, interesting stories, and they have a message, and then obviously, we can. It allows me to kind of see, can we gel and can we work together on a common goal?
For those that are in our listening audience, not only does Dante have a successful podcast, he has the longevity and the consistency if he keeps it going, which I know that he will. That's really where the success in podcasting comes from. I think about those first, and I'm going back to the way beginning, the first 2 or 3 years of me podcasting, but it's 2 or 3 years. It's probably close to 200 or 300 episodes. So 10x really right now what Dante has, or 8x what Dante has out there right now. And I think about all of those lessons that I still hadn't learned at 200 or 300 episodes, that maybe it took enough getting beaten up and hit over the head from somebody saying, or not, the results not coming, going to a conference, discovering at that conference, hey, wait a second, everybody at this conference would be an ideal guest for me. Hey, wait a second, everybody at this conference could be potentially a client of mine. And then using that as my kind of introductory ticket to them. Hey, I'd love to talk to you, get you to sit in my guest seat of my podcast. And as soon as you say that, you're almost like, think about your book for a moment, Dante. Your book came out a little bit prior to the podcast coming out. Think about how you are perceived, whether reality or not, as an expert in the mortgage space or for whatever it is that one writes a book for, just by penning a book. I'm not saying just by, but by penning a book.
Right.
It's kind of like you get instant celebrity if you have a podcast that somebody can go to and they can see, hey, he's actually been doing this for a year, or he's actually been doing this for 2 or 5 years, or whatever it is. Talk about whether it's writing a book or hosting a podcast as it relates to your expertise or an influencer or the go-to person in that space. I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
Oh yeah, I think in theory, I'm in sales, right? It's like, so what are you selling? But you're selling something. So these are things that kind of like medals on like a jacket or notches on your belt that you just put yourself a step, because everyone says, oh, well, I do sales, okay, but then I wrote a book. Oh, and that changes the perspective. Like, oh, you actually sat down and, put time, to it. Like, wow, I didn't do that. Oh, I have a podcast. Whoa. People actually want to sit down and talk to you and have a conversation with you. And so there is levels to everything that we do. There's tiers. And I think those things that if you have the ability to do those things, it just puts you on a different tier, at least in their eyes. It could be all fluff. I mean, eventually the substance is going to have to show
Right.
in the work that you do and the people that you help. But it's funny about the books situation, and I always say this. I wrote the book, and then within the first 2-3 weeks, you get the big splash, right? You get friends, family,
Mm-hmm.
neighbors, all, oh yeah, I'm supporting you, and you really appreciate it, and you can notice, right? You notice in your bank account, like, oh wow, people really did appreciate you, and then after 3 weeks, it's just a big, nosedive
Off the cliff. I
off the
remember.
cliff
I remember that.
off the cliff. No one, and it was a humbling experience. It really was humbling because I at least recognized how many people just don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you're in this bubble and you feel good about yourself, and then you just recognize, like, wow, no one knows me. And for my business, I'm supposed to be known, right? Because I need you to know to call me when it's that time. And so it really motivated me to like find mechanisms that I could showcase who I am and get my name out there. And that's really what led to the podcast, because I think that's the next level.
So between your book and your podcast and all of the other extracurriculars that you do outside of the mortgage business to help promote your mortgage business directly or indirectly, you get to the point where you want to be that go-to person that people are thinking about, top of mind. What do you think that it is that is your competitive advantage? Because as it relates to having the book and the podcast, those are great, but they don't necessarily show how you are as a business person, or
Sure.
maybe they do. So, what is it that you would hope that people would recognize you as it relates to whether it's your business or a way to generate revenue through something? What is it for you?
And I hope if people are watching me, they see what I'm willing to do. This guy's a go-getter. I mean, from day one. This guy, he's tenacious, right? I'm not tall in stature. I'm a short guy, and I've always had tenacity, and I've always had just a discipline within me to be successful. And I like to call myself a winner. I haven't really lost too many times in my life, and knock on wood. But I mean, so working with me, it's going to be a win-win relationship because I'm going to do what it takes to make you happy and get the job done, and I'm gonna get it done, guys. So I hope that that is expressed, and I hope people see like, man, this guy's. I'm willing to try stuff. I'm willing to go out there. You're always the people that ponder like, oh, should I do video? What do you think? Or oh, should I do podcasting? Or should I go on? I just jump out there and do it. And then we're going to figure it out. Hey, did it work? Did it not work? There's still, in the mortgage space and in any sales environment, there's still some core principles you have to do.
Hmm.
You have to make phone calls. You have to create relationships. You have to be able to, be kind of a jack of all trades, type of guy. Know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
You have to be
A
good
chameleon.
with time and scheduling and schedule management and all of that.
Exactly.
Before I hit record, you said, "Yeah, this is we're recording in the middle of December before the end of the month. You know that Dante before the end of any month, but especially before the end of the year, that month, December, there's always that person that needs to. And in Dante's case, it sounds like it's over a dozen people that." Hey, we need to get this thing to the settlement table by December 31st, or we're
Yeah.
in a lot of trouble. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious, how do you manage all of the things that are going on in your life? Because there is a huge amount of schedule demands that I'm sure that you have.
Yeah, it's really just managing the schedule. Each day, making sure that you pre-planned it. I did probably over a decade ago, I went to like Franklin Templeton, seminar
Hmm.
that broke down, the best day is really broken down on Sunday night, where you plan out your whole week and your A's and B's and C's, and that still resonates with me. I mean, you really have to pre-plan out the week, know what's coming up, so then that way you're ready. You block out time to do the non-negotiables. It's non-negotiable to make the phone calls. It's non-negotiable to make sure you can do the podcast when it's set up to be. So we just make it happen. I mean, it makes spices up the day a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, I got a podcast today, and then I got to jump on this. But yeah, my time is very structured and rigid, but it works for me, and it's something that I'm comfortable with.
Now, I don't mean to throw you under the bus in this particular case, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. I don't know the answer, Nice Guy Community, to this question, but I'm really curious what it is. Inbox zero kind of guy, or just let it flow, and why?
I'm an inbox zero type of guy. I can't stand having unopened emails. That like bugs me. That's a pet peeve. I got to know everything. I mean, I think a little bit just in our space, we're kind of control freaks by nature.
Hmm.
So that may help me with my schedule. I just got to know what's going on every day. So all the little pings, pings, pings. I got to see what's going on and make sure I've addressed it.
What level? Okay, so it used to be that 30, I'm an inbox zero kind of guy also, so I can totally relate. 30 emails in my box would be like, no, I'm sorry. 30 unopened, like non-action taking, emails in my box. I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta take action on these. That's a no. 20, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. 10, I feel like I'm really good. Zero, which happens every week. I mean, it's going to go down to inbox zero for me every week. I feel like totally in control. Is that a personality type, or is that just a necessity for you? Because I'm just like you as it relates to, hey, look, I don't want to have any unread emails in my box, or those that need to have action taken. They're definitely getting taken action on as soon as possible.
That is definitely OCD.
I don't know, because I don't feel like I'm an OCD guy. I can leave my bed unmade. I can leave dishes
I
in the
got
sink.
you.
I can't leave go at the end of the night without everything that's in my inbox. Let's say by the end of the night, there's 7 people that have been that have emails in my box. They have all at least been responded to. Now it's just
Sure.
an action that has to be taken. What is it about that in your life that you need to have control over?
I mean, I am a student. I'm a student by nature, so I've attended many seminars, and I know, if you ever call me and you leave a voicemail, you'll hear that I give you my business hours of the day. And from, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., generally is my timeline that I'll say. So anything that happens within that timeline, it's my responsibility to respond to you. After 7 p.m., nope, I'll deal with you tomorrow. But before that time frame, I am locked in. It's a game. I come from the sports background, right? So being an athlete, it was like that. So I treat it like, to some degree, I have 250 games every year, and those are the days that I work.
Hmm.
And when I work, I work. And when I am done working, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But I leave it at work. But I just I don't know, it's something about that where I think it is OCD. But I
I don't
yeah,
I don't know that it's OCD. I don't know that it's not, but I can tell you that to me equates and I'm with you. I kind of gamify it myself. I'm like it's a
sure.
game for me to get down to that no email, nothing nothing to read.
Yeah.
Would you like to go to Google? Cuz I think mine automatically says you have nothing left to do. Click here for Google. Let's
Yeah.
find something to do. I'm not looking for something to do.
No. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm a kind of a taskmaster guy. I like to write down
Right.
what I'm going to do for the day. I like to check mark everything that I accomplish. That way I can look and say, okay, what didn't I do? Or I couldn't get to it. I'll get to it tomorrow. So I really focus on that to try to drive in the situation.
Are you the kind of guy that if there was not something that was a task on your list, but it was something that came up, do you write it on the list just to cross it off
Yes.
your list?
Yes.
I'm that way too. Now, one thing I haven't done, again, this is totally unrelated to the podcast or the business or anything, but one thing I haven't done, and I think I'm going to start it for next year, is all of my like I keep all of my things on like a sheet of paper. I don't do it electronically. I don't plan on changing that to electronically because I like to do the verbal, the
Hmm.
physical cross through of the task. But I generally, after I fill a legal piece of paper up and I cross them all off, I generally rip it off the pad and then throw it away. I'm like, I don't need to deal with this anymore. I would like, however, to keep a year's worth of those to see how much, if you don't think that you accomplish a lot in a day, start writing your tasks down, keep the list, and at the end of the month, even just 1 month, you'll find that you probably have 20 or 30 pages of tasks that you've actually taken care of, in addition to all your emails and all of the other stuff. I don't know if that's something that's worth throwing out there or even worth doing.
So that's funny you say that because I did that. I have I literally have a cabinet of I wanted to keep it because sometimes you jot down notes and I wanted to go back
Yeah.
and look at what did I jot down, maybe in January of 22 or in May of 22. I think you end up not remembering why you wrote what you wrote down.
Okay. All
I
right.
think and then you just have this huge cabinet where, you may have a girlfriend or wife say, "What? Why do you still have this?" I literally have it and I probably need to just burn it or throw it away.
As we head into the new year, as of the recording of this, and if you're listening to this and it's after the new year, this still will apply here. I think about I have my all of my like pending bills and accounts receivable for my own personal stuff, people that owe me money or people that owe me time or they owe me a meeting or whatever. I write all that stuff down and put it in a folder and review that every so often. In that same folder, the accounts receivable folder, I write down my goals. So I have them every year since I've moved to California. So since 2018, I've written my goals and I've kept them all down. Again, part of this becoming successful process, I think, involves we all think that we move and accomplish a lot less than we wanted to all the time. But if you look back, you'll see that if you've set some goals and an agenda for how to get there, you will have achieved the goals. They may have just taken you a little bit longer than you originally anticipated. So I look back even the last few years about not just financial goals, but stuff for vacation and relationships and wins and victories and the hurdles that you're trying to overcome. All the same stuff we talk to in a business sense, you can apply to your personal life as well. And it is amazing to me how when you set a goal or an agenda that you can actually achieve it even if it takes longer and giving yourself a pat on the back when you get there. So I'd love to hear your comment about as we start to wind down this episode about the upcoming year 2025 how do you see that you fit into your goals as it relates to, hey, I know I'm moving slower than I want to, but I know that I'm also going to get there. You're a competitive guy, so you probably keep track of that also. How does setting goals and achieving those goals fit into your agenda for 2025?
Well, I think, I mean, from a daily perspective, I mean, that's why we cross things out because we want to pat ourselves on the back that we did accomplish them.
Right.
I think you also can also measure one thing that I do notice is I measure how many activities or tasks I can do in a day. So I can kind of know if I have a full day, oh, I
Hmm.
can get 40 things done. I can get 30 things done. And so I kind of hold myself to that. So then I don't overwhelm myself at times, right? I'm not going to put 60 things on there that I can't
40 sounds like a
accomplish.
lot. 40 sounds like a lot of things to do, but
I
maybe there
mean,
are four. You probably is a normal, even just,
little
stepping out.
stuff.
Right, right. I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah, little stuff. Yeah, I mean, I every little thing is oh, I had to fax this. Okay, gone. I did it. But I would say when we step back, I mean, that's more micro. When you look at a macro, um, I I know what it takes. I have a better, clearer picture because I've written stuff down. I have a better, the last 2 years has been, a journey in real estate in general, and it's been a transformation for me. And what I would say to people out there, or and once again, from a mortgage perspective, a lot of my business was predicated on business to business. I really focused on, working with like-minded people and saying, hey, you have a database, I have a database,
Hmm.
who can need my help in your database and let me help them out. And I really built 2 decades worth of business that way. And that's how I conduct it. And that's with realtors, insurance agents, financial advisors, etc. But the pivot that had to make was when the market, basically when interest rates doubled,
Hmm.
and everyone was used to these pandemic rates of threes and twos and fours, and they shot up to seven and eights again, and everyone didn't know what to do. All these businesses, all of our databases kind of went dwindled down,
I'll
and they
bet.
didn't and they didn't have those same type of referrals on a longevity basis that I was used to.
Hmm.
And so we had to basically pivot, and that's, something for all businesses. Sometimes you have to pivot, and it's not a failure, but you have to pivot, and we had to pivot to more business to consumer.
Hmm.
And so it was it's something new to me. So I mean, I feel like a rookie a little bit of saying, "Oh, consumers. So where do they come from? How do I talk to them?" And so that's what this is all the premise of this. This is the podcast. This is the writing the book. To really say, okay, consumers, here I am. I have all this knowledge. I have all this experience. Pretty good at what I do. Give me a shot. And I'm going to come to you directly. And so I think having, taking a step back, knowing it was going to be some pain points, structuring it out. I feel much better going into 25 because I have a plan, I have a layout, I know what I'm doing, and I'm ready to get going.
Whether it's Epic Mortgage, Epic Spotlight, Epic Book, any of the epics in your brand, I know that our listening community, our nice guy community, would enjoy getting either a copy of it, listening to it. So tell everybody that's in our community the best way for them to hear you, see you, get more information about what you do and how you do it.
Definitely. Go to my website, DanteRoyster.com. So www.dante, Dante, Royster, that's oyster with an R, so ROYSTER.com. You go to my website, you can click on the link to, purchase a copy of the book. You can also go on there to look at all the guests that I've had on the spotlight
Mhm.
and more to come.
Yeah, yeah. I was checking out your website again. I really do enjoy the bio. You've kind of made me rethink how I present my podcast episodes. Instead of spotlighting the episode, spotlight the guest and have a link or instructions how to get. In your case, it's like I loved what you put. You can get this podcast anywhere you get your podcast. So that's very good. You did a good job with
Thank
promoting
you.
that. And Nice Guy Community, I encourage you to check out the link in the show notes so that you get more information about Dante and where you can find him. So Dante, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for reviewing the. This is I've done two of these. I did one yesterday, and with Christine Mitchie, who has a podcast called the Playful Podcast, and
Hmm.
I have yours, and they're both about just building these great relationships, and it is tried and true. You do a great job at that. As a podcaster with a year under your belt, I know you'll appreciate it when you get to 2 years and look back and just say, oh my God, I thought I was doing good. I can't believe how much more I've been able to accomplish in year 2. And I keep saying that every year. And in February, we'll be celebrating 10 years and 1,600
Wow.
episodes with our show.
It's
So
awesome.
thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here. And thanks for sharing your expertise with our audience.
Hey, happy holidays to you and your family.
Yeah, same to you, Dante. Thanks. Hey, nice guy community. Never underestimate the power of nice or the power of being epic in anything that you do. Special thanks to Dante Royster. All of his information, including access to his website, Dante Royster with an R, like oyster with an R, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Nice Guys on Business. Please go to patreon.com/niceguys. And for as little as $1 a month, you can help support this show. You remember that thing down in Panama, right? Come on, you owe them.